So first of all, let's welcome Justin England from Chia team. He's the VP of Security and Product Development, and also translator, our old friend Jin-san. Okay, welcome everybody. So my first question is, as the first time come to our AMA, Justin, could you please introduce yourself first?
Absolutely. It's nice to see you all. Thank you for coming and thank you for inviting me. I'm Justin England. I am the Vice President of DevOps and Security. Small correction there, not product development. That would be actually Paul Hainsworth as our VP of Product Development. I run security as well as developer process, code delivery, our code lifecycle for testing and releasing our software, as well as securing Chia and the Chia company and our employees. Thank you, guys. It's very nice to be.
So Chia blockchain has always been advertised as the most decentralized and safest. And how can you prove it?
That is first of all, that's a great question. There's two parts here. The first one is the most decentralized. I think that's a easy thing to prove with data. So we publish our full node count, our net space, which implies the security that we're providing, as well as providing those tools to the community. So if you could go and spin up the same tools that I'm using to present that data on our our Grafana instances, our charts that we share for the community. So you can check our work. That way you don't have to trust me. You can kind of verify for yourself. And so if you look at these numbers that we're able to publish, we are the most decentralized blockchain. Being generous to the other major blockchains that exist, specifically Ethereum and Bitcoin, we have 10 to 100 times more nodes, depending on what node count you subscribe to, as well as a lot of user interaction. We have very high farmer counts. If you look at the numbers published by our pools, our farmer counts are very high, which implies a lot of participation from a lot of individuals, as well as you can see large participation in initiatives like our Chia Friends initiative, where we received several 100,000 requests and a lot of interaction, a lot of community interaction around that as well. The other portion, safe, which I think safe is or secure is that's maybe harder to quantify. I think that we can present, that we have a lot of net space, that we are, providing, postmortems and strong public-facing information about the things that we're fixing, the things that we're improving, being open source and acting like we're already a public company. I think also helps that. Our goal is to provide via shareholders and via being a publicly traded company after we go public in the United States, the ability to have more transparency and more control over what we do as a company. And I think that will hopefully over time grow the trust in our security and the trust in the data we publish and things like that. But for now, I certainly say, you don't have to trust what we publish. You can go and kind of run these tools yourself and see that we are as decentralized as we claim, and the numbers we present as our security numbers at net space and farmers and node count and that sort of thing, those are genuine numbers, and you can validate that.
I know that in China we have a large portion of the nodes in Chia blockchain, but it's kind of centralized. You know what I mean? Like it's in mainly in H pool, before. So is it possible to check the IP address of each nodes? We can show on the map.
So yeah, we publish. So this is a little trickier. We can give you the external address for nodes that are forwarding 8443. That's very simple. You can also get IP information or location information from nodes that don't have 8443 forwarded. That is a little more complicated. You basically have to have them be able to report to you. When the crawler runs, we have a crawler service that runs that. That's how we're generating all this data that we're presenting on the web. So using those two facts, we are able to present a GeoIP map of where Chia nodes are in the world. China is by far our largest participant. China and the United States are number one and number two. Um, China is, I think 10 to 15,000 more nodes than the United States. Or last time I looked at the numbers, that's what it was. So it was the network first launched, China was way ahead of the United States, but that is kind of the United States has sort of caught up in node count since mainnet launched, which is great to see. It's great to see that decentralization. And then the rest of the world contributes a plurality of the nodes actually. So the United States and China are the two largest contributors, but they are not more than 50% of the network. Most of the space and node count on Earth is outside of those two countries, which is great for decentralization. We also have nodes that are in the southern hemisphere, lots of nodes in the southern hemisphere, which is something that neither of the proof of work chains, Ethereum or Bitcoin, can really say. We have a lot of nodes in Africa and in the Caribbean and in South America, which is sort of rare for Bitcoin and Ethereum nodes as well. And I think that speaks to kind of our focus on being able to run on, the Pi, the Raspberry Pi, and lower end technology that gives us penetration to places where proof of work traditionally can't go. And so I think that that's a huge differentiator for us. And while we do see, a lot of nodes in China, a lot of nodes in the United States, a lot of nodes in Russia and Germany and a few other nations are the largest contributors of nodes by far. This is a global blockchain, and we have participation from a lot of nation states. So I think that's really great. And as I mentioned, you can see all this data on our stats website, as well as get these tools. We've open sourced them, so you can kind of run this and validate this for yourselves as well.
So how does Chia solve the problem, the trilemma of a blockchain? That's
absolutely
a difficult question. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a difficult question. So I don't think that any blockchain out there solves all of these solves all of the pillars of the trilemma forever, right? I think that Chia, because as a layer one focused on enterprise and government and multilateral use cases, like the World Bank Climate Warehouse, we intentionally focused on security and decentralization, which are the two, I think, major pillars of the trilemma. Our network, it's different in function and purpose than networks like, say, Solana. And I don't think we're saying that our blockchain is infinitely scalable, but I do think that we're well past the point where security and usability of the software has scaled globally, which is, I think, the important part of having those two main pillars of the trilemma solved, is having security that can scale globally. And if you look at, to your previous conversation about the GeoIP of the Chia nodes, we are distributed globally. We are distributed to places where there traditionally are not proof of work nodes, as an example. And so, maxing another coin or another space might tell you that you can't be secure and scalable, and I would beg to differ. I think that we have, at least to the point where it is reasonable, solved security at scale at a global 100,000 installed user base scale, which I don't think any other blockchains are even close to accomplishing. And not to say that they aren't great at the things they're aiming to do, and providing security and providing strong platforms for their users. I just think that we're different in our application of this, and so this is something unique that we are able to bring to the market space.
So how to ensure, as we have more and more XCH and now NFTs, we have Chia friends, maybe very expensive in the future. How to ensure the security of the wallet? And are there any hardware wallet developer plan in Chia network?
Absolutely. So I want to answer the second part of this question first and say that there are absolutely hardware wallet development in the works. We're working with both major hardware providers. The delay there is that, unfortunately, this is a demand-driven market, and we have a signature that isn't hasn't reached 100% market share. So BLS2 signatures are unique to our chain and a few others. And so that's why those devices have not been widely available for our blockchain. That's not to say that you can't be secure though. And so I just want to point out that JM and I, one of the other vice presidents at Chia, did a video a while ago now. We should probably do an update of it, but it's on YouTube. It's available on our Chia Network channel. I believe it's been translated into Chinese. If it hasn't, please, stay on us to get that out to you so that you can see that as well. But the basics are that you should be creating cold wallets on machines that are not online, and then sending your farming rewards, NFTs, Chia friends to those cold wallets if you intend to custody them for a long period and not transact with them. And so you can store those keys with any fireproof, key storage device. There's a lot of metal ones available. You can even make your own with, stamp and a piece of steel, and then custody that in a safe or someplace that is secure, in your home. That's going to be 99% of the security you will need for long-term custody. For shorter-term custody and for transactions, we do have some solutions that are coming up that we'll talk about the custody multi-sig solution that we have coming soon, which will give you more peace of mind to be able to transact these high-value Chia friend assets, as an example that the community is so excited about. And so, right now, for the most secure custody, cold wallets are what we have. There will be hardware wallets coming soon, and we will be releasing this multi-sig clawback custody platform that we're going to be using to custody the preform as well very shortly. I can't give an exact timeline on that for security reasons, but and I can talk about that if I think we have a question about that as well coming up. I can talk about that more in depth there. But those are the best practices, and definitely go watch that video that JM and I put together. And I understand this is a very hot topic and one that I'm very passionate about. So I appreciate the question. Thank you, guys.
Okay, that's very good. I think it's as you said, it's a revolutionary technology, and we are expecting to see that online and as soon as possible. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, that's yeah. I don't know technology too much, but it's hard for me to understand it totally. But maybe later you can have some paper to explain it in detail. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
So please introduce Chia multi-signature wallet and how to prevent the hacking incidents happened before in other blockchain. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is a great transition to this question. And as you said, that this will be, in my opinion, a revolutionary change for how things are custodied in blockchain. So as I touched a little bit on my last answer, this solution will allow you to create a singleton, which is like the pooling protocol uses a singleton. So it's a similar smart contract to that, which will allow you to custody your Chia assets, cats, NFTs with an aggregate multi-signature. And so what you can say is that I have n number of keys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. It doesn't really matter what your number is. And then you can set rules on how many of those keys are required to do specific actions in specific timeframes. And so you'll be able to, as an example, set a period where only a certain percentage of coins are ever allowed to move. You'll be able to do clawback on those coins. You'll be able to do excuse me, it's a little late. My mind is blanking. You'll be able to do clawback. You'll be able to do rekeying. So if you lose a key or one of your keys is compromised, you'll be able to rekey it without losing the other keys that have been used to create the initial singleton. All of these things are to make the usage and sending and spending of your assets that you have on chain more simple and something that you can do with confidence. So you won't have to send test transactions anymore. You won't have to worry about having to have a hardware wallet like a Trezor, because you'll be able to maybe have a key that you leave with a friend and a key that you could keep for yourself and a key you keep in a safe. And you need all three of those to send your whole wallet. That sort of stuff will be possible with this new solution, which is currently not possible with any other tooling in this ecosystem. And that's kind of why I've leaned hard into you won't need a hardware wallet because you'll be able to do the things that a hardware wallet traditionally has given you, offline signatures, that sort of thing, more simply and more easily with the our custody solution. This is, as I mentioned, the solution we're going to use to custody the preform. And so there will be some additional custody, the time lock in particular, and some other rules that we will have that you probably won't want to implement, but you certainly can. And when we release this, we will, as you mentioned, publish a paper, publish instructions on how to use it. And then through the end of this year, by, I believe, Q1 next year, we intend to have a working copy of this custody in our wallet, if not fully released, at least in a beta, so that people that aren't able to use the command line or CLI or more engineering facing tools will be able to use these tools as well.
About the clawback feature. So Chia in China have a additional question regarding to the clawback feature. So he's saying that he believed that he saw it somewhere that you're only allowed to trace back the fund that you've spent it in the last 24 hours. Is that correct?
So the clawback will be the period for clawback will be defined by the custody singleton. The default period is that's a great question. I believe our default period is going to be something like 30 days for the pre-farm custody, but that will be definable for your implementation, whatever your singleton you've created with logic that will say this clawback will be X time. It could certainly be 24 hours. It could be several weeks. There are opportunities here for sort of like on-chain escrow where like you both set a period where, I'll give you this coin in 2 weeks for this coin in 2 weeks, that sort of thing. So certainly there are, that would be a configurable setting. And, depending on if 24 hours is too long or not enough, you can choose that for yourself based on your singleton.
So when will the pre-farm lockup be performed and make sure everybody trusts it? Yeah,
absolutely. So this is another great transition. As I said in my initial answer to this, we can't give a specific date for operational security just because we don't want to put the Chia employees doing this work at risk, because there's a lot of frankly, a lot of money at stake here, and we want to make sure that they are safe as possible to do the work they need to do. That being said, it will be very soon. We're in the final stages of testing this now. This has been one of the main things that I have personally been working on for probably the past 4 or 5 months now. I've finished most of the real world implementation that I needed in place to do the custody ceremony. We are at the point now where we're establishing the final testing phases, making sure the code and the functionality functions up to the Chia standard, because obviously this is a fairly high risk when change, and so we want to make sure we get it right, because you don't really get a do-over with sort of an operation. And how will we ensure people that that things are locked up as we say they are? Everything will be a smart contract on chain. We will show you the Chia list we used to generate the singleton. You can then take that singleton and compare it to the code, and the checksums will match. And so you will be able to ensure that that is the custody contract that we've created. And then the proof will be on chain as well. Only a certain percentage of the pre-farm asset will mature over a given period of time, very small percentage over several years, eventually unlocking all the pre-farm to be moved. But that will be a known quantity and advertised, and you will be able to audit that is happening as we said it would on chain, as well as all of the transactions for any transaction of the pre-farm will be on chain, and you'll be able to see the aggregate spend bundle and the custody solution being applied to all of these things, as well as the clawback if necessary. All of that will be demonstrable on chain. And then obviously, as with all the things, we'll release the tools open source so that you yourself can go and audit and implement them in your own applications and tools. And so, don't take our word for it. Go ahead and check, as always, with every tool Chia releases.
So can you explain that the DEXI exchange transaction, because now more and more people are trading on the DEXI, not only CAT but also NFT. So how about the security of the DEXI transaction?
Absolutely. So first of all, I think this is a great question to pose to DEXI themselves. I think that any service you use, and particularly in this space, you should be asking questions. How are you securing things? What measures are you taking to ensure that things aren't being fraudulent? I will say that DEXI in particular, and this isn't going to be in my text answer, so I apologize, but DEXI in particular, I know that they are diligent in making sure that there are not fraudulent NFT offers, as an example, being posted, and they are working really hard to keep the ecosystem as fair as possible. And so I would say that there is no opportunity for any DEX or any decentralized exchange to compromise a transaction on the Chia blockchain. In particular, if they are using only offers, there is no mechanism for an offer aggregator, as an example, to compromise that transaction that is as secure as a peer-to-peer offer. And it is a peer-to-peer offer when it gets resolved on chain. And so, the decentralized exchanges are offering, great ability for people to get together and, find these offers being posted. But at the end, it's using, a revolutionary and very secure technology called Chia offers. And those are, we view them as our most ironclad primitive. They are far more secure than say cats or NFTs, because they are very specific in their execution and they're a very simple smart contract.
So could you please tell us something about the CAT1 exploit and how do you deal with it? We know many information already, but as a VP of security, we want to know your conclusion from this.
Absolutely. So I will start by saying that this is a fairly common software bug, which is encouraging in the fact that it does not indicate that there are larger security concerns that we will not catch or have not caught in the last 2 audits. I also want to reiterate that this is the second of 2 audits that we plan to do for the CAT standard. The first audit was done earlier in the year. This one is finishing now. This Trail of Bits audit caught a unique change that happened after the first audit that introduced this SHA-256 concatenation bug. Essentially, we were not checking the proper constraints and assuming that pieces of information that were being provided about a cat were true by implication. Now we know that is a improper way for that function to operate, and we have patched it to validate specific inputs so that we always know that the input and output are the correct cat and the correct amount. And so this is frankly a fairly small bug to patch. You can go look at the footprint of the code in the code base and see that it's it's only a couple lines that were changed, to be frank with you. And so that's very encouraging. This is why we do audits. I am far more confident in the Cat 2 standard now, having passed this audit, and when we get the Trail of Bits sign off on our remediation. You can go and look at the full explanation. We posted a CVE. We intend to post a CWE. The Mitre.org people are, we're working with them right now to get the CWE out. In the interim, we posted a blog post on Chia.net, which I believe will be translated to Chinese, so you can read that. The basics of that summary would be that Cat1 calculates a coin ID by taking two SHA-256 hashes and concatenating them, the parent ID and the puzzle hash of the coin, and along with the Cat1 amount. This method, as I mentioned, only ensures that the number of bytes is correct, not that the components that we were taking in are correct. And so you can manipulate those settings in the Cat1 to generate an esoteric amount of coin. It's actually interesting that this exploit can't be run to give a specific amount of a Cat1. It has to be whatever you ended up getting lucky, like however much fit into the byte register. And so it is an actual pretty difficult thing to exploit. And that's something that when we were running the exploit in order to resolve the outstanding offers to kind of white hat and give people back their assets without them being taken advantage of. It was a challenge for us to get the correct amount of some of these Cat 1s because we could either generate 260 million or 7. It is a very imprecise exploit. And so the usage of it to create and then melt cats is fairly high technical barrier, but you could go do it with the documentation we provided. And as always, if you have any questions, please come to Keybase and ask there, because I think that's the best place to get up to the minute technical information on this sort of a bug.
So would you mind to explain a bit more about the best part, like how they can manipulate the Cas1, like that depending on the lock part?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't.
So I heard what you said is that they can't really mint whatever they want. So it's basically depending on the lock.
Yes. So there are three facts that are being used to do the comparison when you concatenate: the coin ID, the puzzle hash, and then the coin amount. Those three together are basically a validated SHA-256 hash that you can use to say, is this person allowed to spend this cat, as an example? That is what the check is actually doing. And so with the exploit, you're able to put in, say a number, say you want to put in 100,000 of cat A, let's call them. That number has to combine with the coin puzzle hash and the coin ID to produce the same SHA-256 hash collision that you got with the actual original amount you controlled, right? And so you're moving bytes around in memory to get the same hash that is actually like a different coin number with the same coin ID and same puzzle hash. And so it is an art and not necessarily a science, right? Like you have to like do a little bit of a grind there to figure out what numbers come out with the same hash. And then those numbers are the size of a lot of cats that you're able to mint. And this is forward and backwards, right? So you can create more, like say you could create 100,000 by putting 100,000 in as the.
So how to achieve the privacy protection on the Chia blockchain?
That's a really great question. So first of all, there's been a lot of great internal discussion recently about how to do privacy-based sidechains and solutions in conjunction with our UTXO-based Layer 1 blockchain. As you've probably noticed, the Layer 1 blockchain is not a privacy chain like Monero as an example. But there are opportunities here, and this is something that Bram has a lot of great ideas about, to do basically zero-knowledge roll-ups from a privacy-based sidechain or privacy-based ecosystem onto the main blockchain. So you're resolving with the Layer 1 security, but get the privacy of say a Monero or a private resolution ecosystem. The one key benefit that our blockchain and UTXO model would have over another sidechain privacy model is that all of the coins on a sidechain privacy chain would be one-to-one coins on the main blockchain. There's no difference between a smart contract on a sidechain and a smart contract on the Layer 1, which gives unique opportunities to the zero-knowledge rollups that privacy chains could have. We don't have a fully fleshed solution right now, but this is something that, as I mentioned, Bram has a lot of great ideas on. We've been discussing internally. We're currently in the design phase for this. Our goal is to publish this, the expectation for delivery of this as part of our roadmap. Our roadmap we intend to get out to you guys very shortly. Within the next probably 60 to 90 days, we'll have our roadmap published for the next 2 or 3 years, and that will be on. This will be on there. This will be towards the beginning of it. I believe that I don't know that it's this year, maybe not be early next year, but I believe we're slotting it in like summer or fall of 2023. I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me 100% on the timeline. Needless to say, it's something that it's we have a lot of solutions that we want to try out, and we need to get some designs down and then start solutioning them once we begin solutioning, we'll know what works and doesn't work, and kind of be able to go from there. But we completely understand this is something that our community is really asking for, and so it's something that's at the very top of our list as far as primitives to develop.
So the community needs more developers, and but the UTXO model and the Chia Lisp are kind of hard for them to understand that as a beginner. So how will Chia solve that problem? Do you have any plan on that for community?
Absolutely, yeah. So I just want to start by saying that we have a great developer relations team and marketing team. And as part of our executive summit last week, this is something that we discussed, that growing developer interaction and growing our developer community is objective 1A for us as a company, especially for those two teams. They are in the process right now of scaling up and building education materials, putting together hackathons, other engineering community outreach activities. We had a lot of discussion about where those efforts will be most effective, what engineers to pursue and how to pursue them. We are going to make a very targeted approach over the next 6 months to help grow developer interaction. We view solid or quality developers that are investing time in the ecosystem, that want to do things like submit a grant application, that want to build things like AMMs, to be the cream of the crop type of developer. And those are the type of developers we're going to try to be pursuing over the next 6 months to a year. I would also like to say that UTXO and Chia Lisp having a high barrier may not actually be the case for all engineers. We're seeing that people like Dan Bonnet out of Stanford are a certain type of student for them that doesn't have, say, experience in an account and Solidity model. They're actually finding the Chia Lisp UTXO stack easier to ramp into. Now, that's not the case for all engineers, certainly, but it is encouraging to see that there are some engineers and very high quality engineers that are finding the Chia Lisp UTXO stack easier to begin programming in. So we find that to be encouraging, and those are the type of engineers we're going to really focus on trying to pursue, because we feel there will be a lot of gains there. And also, as we build educational materials, we'll be able to pursue maybe a Solidity account model based engineer. One thing to keep in mind is that Solidity was, and the account model on Ethereum were designed so that a web engineer who knows JavaScript could, within 48 hours, have some form of smart contract up and functioning on chain, which is an excellent goal, but that is not what we intend to do with our Chia Lisp and UTXO model. We want this to be real on-chain financial transaction tools, and with that comes a slightly higher barrier to entry for that sort of work. But we do view that to be important, one, and two, something that will benefit the engineers who do ramp into this space, because they will be, instead of competing against 1,000 fly-by-night smart contracts, you will be working on building the financial instruments that large investment banks and that sort of partner will use, which I think is a distinction that a lot of ecosystems can't offer, that we can offer, and that our ecosystem is kind of optimized for. And so I think that it may, it has taken a little time to get this off the ground, but I think that we now have the things in place we need to really be aggressive about this kind of engineer and developer space growth, as well as there are unique opportunities Chia can offer that I think make us stand out, and will, once we start getting that message and education out to engineers, they will be very interested in working with the tools we can provide. Our Chia Lisp engineers?
Yes.
I can't say with 100% certainty. I know that I know that there are, as an example, our two most senior Chia Lisp engineers are in the mid 100,000s to 200,000 salary range. I know that all of our senior engineers are in the 160 and north range, and so our most senior Chia Lisp engineers are probably comfortably in that range. Our more junior Chia Lisp engineers, I believe, are at the 6 figures range, to 100 and 120 or so $1,000 a year. And then, we actually probably are on the low end of what a long-term Chia Lisp engineer may be able to earn. I know for a fact that financial services companies, specifically like Wall Street banks as an example, pay significantly more than most tech startups because they are financial instrument technology shops. And so they are kind of an outlier in salary. Tech in general has a pretty high salary range, and then financial services technology is probably 30% more on top of that for the most senior talent. So, an engineer that makes $200,000 a year working at, say, Google would be worth 240 to 260 maybe at, JP Morgan or something like that.
Yeah, it's an attractive future for engineers, I think. Many opportunities. Okay, that's all we have done today. And thank you again, Justin. And thank you again, Jean. And thank you, everybody. So we finished our AMA today. If somebody have some question, please raise up your hands right now. Okay.
Will no SSD sort of like a cloud compression like a solution affect the overall Chia's security?
That's a great question. So first of all, I cannot comment 100% on what technology they're actually implementing. I don't believe that it is a simple cloud compression. I can say that we are actively working to reverse engineer this solution. We are in touch with a few other people in the community who potential partners who have very similar gains that they are willing to work with us to open source and contribute to the main code base. We're also working to reverse engineer some of the more interesting things that the NoSSD team were able to do. I will say that some of the things they implemented are very sophisticated. We don't believe that the people who actually did the discovery and engineering work are the people who are now implementing this pool. We base that on the sophistication of the code and the technology versus the implementation that has been a little less sophisticated. There's a clear line in what's deployed versus the theory and the work behind what was created here. I would say that it will not have a long-term effect on the security of the blockchain. At best, we are looking at an improvement to overall plot sizes for everyone. We will have this technology into the plotter shortly. It won't be probably the next couple weeks, but we need to get our ducks in a row for reverse engineering it and then get the changes in. But we will certainly have this sort of plot size shrinkage available, and we will be able to also offer it more than likely to existing farms so that you can run this tool against your existing farm and kind of shrink the size to get some additional plot space to add security to the network. We don't view this to be any sort of risk. The gains here are pretty much right along with what we expected them to be. There are some surprises, to be frank. There's some things that we had some assumptions on that are, we found some interesting things in this implementation. And our best engineers are hard at work taking a look at this to make sure that any gains we can have can be shared with everybody. I don't think it is a risk. I think it is a very interesting and unique implementation. It would have been ideal to have it open sourced. I get, kind of why these guys didn't, because they maybe had some investment they feel they should need to be able to recoup. It's their business, it's their software. But certainly we'll be able to emulate it and bring those changes in as part of the open source tool. So I don't think it'll be a long-term, probably in 6 or 7 months, we'll be discussing, maybe there'll be a pool, maybe they won't. We'll be discussing kind of our probably alternatives to this, and maybe there will be more improvements to come from there, right? Like we are very close to the theoretical limit, but we are not there yet, and so there may be more improvements here once Mariano and Bram and them have an opportunity to kind of dig into this more extensively. The ability to spoof net space. I know that around launch time there was the ability to, they were calling it double farming when there were a lot of original plot pools that were all the rage before we released the pooling protocol. You were able to submit partials to basically 2 pools at the same time, which made them both report your net space. As far as I am aware, There is no way to spoof NetSpace. The implementation, if we're talking about no SSD, as I said, I can't get into the deep technical details because I am not working on the team that's investigating that implementation. But I can say that as far as I know, what they are doing is not making fake NetSpace. What they are doing is called a time-space trade-off, which is something we wrote about in our initial papers. Some of the things that you can do, use more compute to basically truncate the first two tables, and then that compresses the amount of on-disk space you actually need, but is a more CPU-intensive implementation. Now, don't quote me on that. That may not be the gospel, but that is my understanding of what the no SSD thing is doing at its core as far as the technology goes. And so it is not representing fake NetSpace. It is using more computational energy to get an advantage on smaller hash tables in the first two tables that exist as part of a plot. This is something that we knew about. The thing that we are interested in is some of the implementation details are actually novel. And so we'll be looking into adding those techniques basically to our computational sorting of tables 1 and 2, which we think will be able to get these gains for everybody. I am not aware, and if you are aware, please come talk to us in Discord about this, but I am not aware of anyone having the ability to generate fake NetSpace. There were some discussion about people using supercomputers to do very fast plotting and grinding, attacking the network maybe that way. We haven't seen any evidence of that either. And obviously, we're always have our ears open. If there are people who have evidence of these sort of things going on, please. We have a bug bounty and a responsible disclosure program. We would certainly love to hear about proposed attacks or grinds or anything else against the network.
So I think that's all for today, Justin. I think we have done already, and really appreciate you stayed up so late and answered the questions here. So as return, I please leave your XAH address in my email, and I will give you a NFT, God of Crypto. Okay.
Excellent. I love NFTs. I love trading collectibles. So I will absolutely pass along my address. And thank you everyone for attending and for inviting me. This was a pleasure. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jin. And thank you everybody who attended today's AMA. And see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.